Hey everybody, I'm Jack. Thanks for joining me again for another episode of Raw Tropical Living. Hope the week is off to a good start for you. Good start here. I don't know, I'm getting this video done a little bit late in the day. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and so far I don't know where the day's gone. Mondays are generally, I had some errands to run, some things to do, and anyhow, just finally getting around to it. I wanted to start the week off with another episode of my raw food diet beginner series, and this is going to be an easy transition method, or just kind of a little tip, some advice to help you along the way. Guys, I do videos every day, similar ones to this. Sometimes I get off the subject a little bit, but if you haven't already done it, please go down there now and hit that subscribe button. Then be sure you click on the little bell and check send notifications so you will stay subscribed to the channel. Yeah, this beginner series, I'm going to just from time to time try to kind of go back. Most of it's not stuff that I haven't talked about before. I've talked about some of the things I'm going to talk about today a number of times, but always new people tuning in, and always a different way of putting them out there. And then, just because. One of the things I'm going to talk about today as far as the transition goes is, listen, transition, that's kind of a personal thing. Some people don't even do a transition. Some people go raw overnight. If that works out for you, great, do it. God bless you. But not too many people do that. Some people do, the rate of transition is something you're going to have to determine for yourself. I would recommend being as honest with yourself as possible. Don't try to go faster than you're ready for. But also, too, don't just use this word transition and just kind of park yourself there and just kind of get comfortable with that and just kind of like pretend that you're doing something when you're really not. I mean, some people I've been around, or some people that I hear comments and in groups and whatever, they've sort of been transitioning for years. I'm like, at some point it's not a transition anymore, So anyhow, this transition, the way I'm talking about today is as simple as this, is adding and subtracting. Let's go back to elementary school and none of this basic math. I mean, none of this new math that people are doing now. That's the most convoluted BS I've ever seen in my life. And no, don't try to explain your little egghead, well, that's because of that. No, 2 and 2 is 4. But anyhow, don't get me started on that. This is simply adding and subtracting. I like to do things, I've always played little games with myself to get things done. Let's take the example of the tortoise and the hare, if you've ever heard that story. I've always kind of been the tortoise. I've plodded along. I like to constantly be moving forward. I like to be constantly making a little bit of improvement, or moving towards my goal, or improving myself, however you want to put it. I'm not a big flashy person, I've never been like, I do these amazing things. It's just like plodding away, little by little by little by little. Little adds up. Let me give you a little example that's money related right here. One time this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I had a business down in Miami, lost that business, and had no money, was just broke could be. Got a job after having a business, got a job in this little restaurant bar back. Wanted to build my money back up. Didn't have a lot of extra after paying the bills. What I did every single day, and I stuck to this, was I had this, I forgot what I was keeping it in at the time, but I took $3 out of my tips every day, over and over and over and over. I took a minimum out, put it in there, some days more. After a while, that was real money. But most people could never get that I would explain that to. And I've saved like that money-wise a lot of times. Little things add up. So when we're talking about a transition, also too, another little aspect too, having little psychological wins is really important. Little wins really kind of motivate us to keep going on. So, and in that spirit, always liking to be moving forward. I've talked about that a number of times here. No matter how slow you're progressing, if you will just set your course on progressing, I will go at whatever speed I need to go, but I will not go backwards. not go backwards. Doesn't matter how far, like, it doesn't matter how slow you go, you will get there. You will get there. But that back and forth, is not productive. And that happens when people decide they're going to jump in quicker than they're ready to. If you're not ready for something, you're going to struggle with it. If you do this thing a certain way, you don't have to struggle with this transition. And what I mean by the adding and subtracting, just simply add in good food each week, take something out every week, or use a you can personalize that to yourself. Maybe you want to have daily things you do. Maybe you do something, you progress, you got to see a little bit of progress each day. Probably a little bit more realistic to do it weekly, but okay, it could look something like this. You're coming to this lifestyle. People ask this all the time. Oh my God, they see these amounts of fruit, they see what some of us are eating, and they're like, man, I could never do that. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Most everybody has thought that at some point or another. I remember when I first started doing this lifestyle, following this lifestyle, I wasn't eating the mass amount of bananas or the mass amount of fruit. I would see that and be, oh my God. I remember the first time I think I ate 4 or 5 bananas in one sitting, and I was like, wow. I can't believe I ate so many bananas. So it could be something as simple as that. Maybe you don't currently eat a lot of fruit. Maybe you don't currently eat a lot of vegetables. Maybe it's as simple as, okay, tomorrow I'm going to have 3 bananas for breakfast. The next day I'm going to have more bananas. The next day I'm going to keep adding more throughout the day. I'm going to add more and more fruit throughout my day. And I'm going to stop more and more daily, weekly, however you decide to set that up. So a first week might look like, okay, I'm a brand new person. I'm just started on this lifestyle. I'm figuring it out. I'm going to watch people's videos. I'm going to do some reading and research, and I'm going to do this thing. So I'm starting at the very beginning. Don't know all that much. What am I going to do? You're just going to have some fruit for breakfast. I mean, start wherever you are. For some people, that would be huge. I know in this area right here, there's probably people here that have never had 4 bananas in one day in their life. So just start there. Each day, you add more fruit. Each day, you add more, greens. Each day, you add more vegetables. Each day, you add, or it could even be a meal, like I've talked about before. That it's pretty, no matter where you are, it's pretty easy to go raw vegan until noon. I mean, I think you could be like rolling through the drive-through every day and then decide you want to make a change and still be able to do raw vegan until noon. So, like I say, once again, you have to start where you are. If you're at the very bottom, take each victory you can. At the end of the week, all you want to do, you don't need to be perfect at the end of the week. You want to see progress. Whether you're doing it daily, weekly, or whatever, you're kind of keeping up with your progress. You're not going to be perfect. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you're never going to make a mistake, but generally you're constantly going forward. So, as you go, each week you're adding more and more fruit. Each week you're adding more and more greens, more salads. Maybe a couple of days, even if you are a beginner, maybe you have two raw meals in the day. Maybe you have fruit in the morning, maybe you have a salad at lunch, maybe you have fruit in the morning, maybe you have a smoothie at lunch. All I'm saying is you're constantly progressing, and you're constantly reducing. You're cutting out those things. There's a lot of things that are actually more important than the cooked food to go ahead and get out of there. Get the processed food out of your diet. Get the animal products out of your diet completely. Get the oil out. Get the salt out. But just get it out. And you can make a game out of it. Just like really make a game. Like, okay, this week, how many bananas did I eat this week? Keep a little chart. That's what I keep talking about here. Some of these things, when I go back and check out a video or look at it, I'm like, well, that's kind of goofy. Who's going to do that? I'm like, who's going to do that? The person that's not doing it right now, that hasn't been succeeding and actually wants to succeed. Because if you really want to do something, it's any means necessary. You use whatever trick you have to with yourself, or, you do whatever methods that work for you. But steady wins the race. I really want to stress that more than anything. And pick yourself a good, kind of middle ground on your transition. Don't try to have that ego and like I can go overnight and I can be hardcore, and don't go the other way and be like, okay, well, let's see, I'm going to transition. I've been transitioning for the last 3 years. We're still going. No, find that middle ground. Find what works for you. But I believe this 100%, and then I will finish with this. If you have a plan, if you plan your transitions properly, and when I say properly, just based on you, based on your personality, if you plan your transition right, I will stick to that 5-month agenda I have. Anybody should be able to go from sad to fully raw vegan in 5 months. Maybe less, but let's say, anybody, 5 months. If you're trying to go fully raw. Like I say, don't come back at me and say, well, I don't want to be fully raw. Well, okay, well, then I'm not talking about that. But if you want to, 5 months, because that is a thought out way of doing it. And if you follow it, you'll get there. So steady wins the race, people. Be the tortoise, not the hare. Hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.